Here we go. Hello, boys and girls, and welcome to another episode of Unleash the Hero Within. And once again, coming to you from Setubal, Portugal. And today is another special episode because today I'm going to have a conversation with my oldest guest so far, Bill Gaede, 85 years old, and he moved to Portugal at the age of 85. Now, if that isn't an interesting story to share, then I wonder what is. But before we start talking to Bill, I want to have you a small introduction of him. Bill was born in 1937 in New Mexico. That's where he grew up on the farm of his parents in Texas, and that's also where he spent most of his time growing up. Mm-hmm. He married his high school sweetheart at the age of 18 and had a career in the automotive industry in several management positions. The last years of his working life he spent in the pharmaceutical industry, and he had his own business in remodeling homes. Bill, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you very much. I'm pleased to be here, I think.
Yeah, well, you just told me this is the first time you're going to be on a podcast.
Yep.
So I guess you're never too old to have new experiences, right?
That's for sure.
Yeah.
This is a very new experience for me.
Well, it's a very new experience for me as well. So this is going to be very interesting because, the thing that triggered me the most is why did you decide to leave the United States and move to Portugal at your age? I mean, most people at that age, it will be too much of a hassle. They just want to stay where they are, surrounded by their family and their friends, and don't bother with all the difficult stuff. So what made you decide?
Well, I can't deny that it was a hassle for me too in a lot of ways. But we were here a year ago. I say we, my cousin and I were here just almost exactly a year ago this time. I fell in love with the place, and I couldn't get it out of my mind. And I thought, there's got to be more than life than what I'm doing in North Carolina. Nothing wrong with North Carolina necessarily. I just did not know if I could afford North Carolina that much longer.
Okay.
And I wanted to move to a place where I could be more free to be myself and to maybe do a little traveling. And Portugal is close to the whole European Union, which I can travel to with very little effort from here. Mm-hmm. And so it just made sense to me with the cost of living being a lot less here and the closeness to the rest of the European countries that I could do some traveling that I could never do from the United States. Just made a whole lot of sense to me. So that's the reason I packed everything up, sold everything I could, and made my plans to move. And here I am.
So that's pretty cool. I mean, not only you decided to move to a place where the cost of living was better, but also with the intention of travel, right? Mm-hmm. You want to travel and see Europe. Have you been to Europe before?
Have not, other than here.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
So have you already done some traveling in Europe? Or?
Not yet.
Oh, not yet.
I got to get a couple of bills paid off first.
Oh, sure,
and I want to travel so that I can enjoy it and not have to think about, am I spending too much money or what, But so I can finish my trip in the style that I want to, whatever that means.
Okay.
And so that's kind of the way I'm approaching it. And I've got a few months to go, meaning 5 or 6, before I can have that situation where I make the choices instead of my pocketbook making them.
Sure. Mm-hmm. So by the beginning of 2023, you're ready to get your backpack out of the closet and...
There you go. And I think that's a pretty close estimate that I would be able to travel to some of these places that I've always thought about, do some of the things that I've thought about and do it. Not necessarily in lavish style. I'm not that kind of a person, but do it in comfortable style, so that I can enjoy it and not have to worry about, now what am I going to do when I get back,
Sure, yeah.
And so I wanted to approach it that way.
Okay. Did you travel a lot in your younger years?
I did not. That was part of the problem. I wanted to, but I never seemed to have the resources to do it with. We did, my parents are still living in Texas in my early years, and then they moved to, my dad moved to Wisconsin, where I was living at the time, and stayed with me a good while. And so from that experience and knowing what they were going through and everything, it just made sense to me to make the move while I still could and while I was feeling good, and health was with me and all those things. I have had some health problems, but they were taken care of with surgery and what have you. And I've been doing pretty doggone good lately, and I walk a lot. and that's kind of my claim to fame in terms of my health. You know, that keeps me on top of my game. So I hope that works out for the future too.
Okay, so I'm curious, when you decided to leave the United States. I mean, you shared that's your plans with your family, your friends. You had 2 sons, I believe.
Right.
What was their reaction about it?
One was pretty positive about it after his first little warnings and all this and why that and have you realized and all these things, his own doubts, you know.
Yeah.
I said, yeah, I've thought about all those things and I've planned around them. And the other boy is, I don't know what, he's not there with me yet, so I don't know what's going to happen there. I'm kind of disappointed about that. I'm more than kind of disappointed about it. But it's not changing anything, and it hasn't changed for a number of years, and I didn't even realize it till very recently that he had a problem. But now I guess this is the new problem he's got with me, so that's okay. I don't mind giving him a new problem. He never told me about the old one, you know, and you may have to cut that out. I don't know. But anyway, I don't leave with any animosity there. I love both of those boys as much as you possibly could. The youngest boy is married. His wife has a grandbaby that makes him a great grandpa now. And so I never had a grandchild at all. And so he's way ahead of me in that regard.
Unbelievable, yeah.
And so anyway, I'm pleased that I made the choice to make the move. I don't know what that leaves for my son, my youngest son, and I. I'm not sure about that yet.
Yeah. Because do you see yourself going back to the United States for even visiting, or?
Honestly, I don't. I'm in hopes that one or both of them will come here, visit me, visit perhaps some other place in Europe that they'd like to go and visit, and that we can have a good time together here. As of right now, I don't see any possibility that I would ever want to be able. Well, I don't have any problem with visiting America. I don't see how I could ever live there again.
Okay, wow, yeah. How does that make you feel? I mean, you've been living there for 84 years.
Yeah.
And now you're moving all the way to Europe, and, you know, chances are, like you just said, you're not going to see the America again.
You know, it doesn't bother me, and I can't say why, and maybe it should, but it doesn't, and I'm comfortable with it. I was living alone there. I'm living alone here. Nothing's changed really in terms of that situation. The only thing that's changed is that I can live more comfortably here, and I already see that, than I could there. And I'm not sure how much longer I could have actually stayed there, you know, from an expense standpoint. And it was going the wrong way fast, and since I left, it's gone even faster. So I think it was a good move for me, and so I hope it'll work out in the long term.
And how about your friends? Did you have many friends in the United States?
I did. I had, especially in my neighborhood, I had a walking buddy. We walked. I jokingly say we walked a half a mile down the mountain and 3 miles back up. But it was a pretty steep mountain, I give it that. But anyway, I did get some exercise on that mountain, and Jerry was a friend of mine that I loved dearly, and his wife was a sweetheart, and they helped me. Both of them have helped me a tremendous amount in the move and everything. And so I think that the walking part that Jerry and I did for the most, about every morning, that there wasn't something else on the agenda that we hadn't planned for yesterday, we were able to walk, and it seems like it has served me well here because I walked all over Setubal, and I have not had a problem yet with walking.
Nice.
And so I'm really completely thrilled about that because I didn't know how much walking I could handle here, but I knew I was going to have to walk everywhere.
Sure, yeah.
And I sold my little red truck, which just broke my heart, but I just thought they just drive too fast and too wild over here. I'm not up for that anymore. And so I didn't want to get my little truck bruised, and I didn't want to get hurt and anything like that. So I determined in my own mind that I needed to walk about everywhere I went, and I have.
That's good for your health as well. So
that's what I think.
Yeah, maybe that's even the secret.
Well, you never know.
You never know, right? I mean, walking a lot serves you well. So
yes, it has. It has. And the walking on the mountain, I'm sure, helped. The working in the house rehabilitation area. Probably helped some. It kept my strength up until I had a little bit of a health problem. And I went through that, a couple of, one major operation and one minor operation. I got through both of those in flying colors. And I guess maybe I would claim at least that I took pretty good care of myself after the fact to make sure that, because my dad lived till he was 88 and my mother was just over 90.
Okay, good
or just before 90. I forget. I'd have to stop and figure it up again. But she was getting up there. And I thought, I need to do that too. I don't want to be the youngest one in this family to have to pass, you know.
Yeah, sure.
So anyway, that's kind of a motivation I have. It's not a terribly important motivation because I'll go when I have to go, you know. But anyway, that's kind of reality that at some point it'll come.
Okay. Well, it sounds like you're settling in nicely here in Setubal.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
What has been your most beautiful experience here so far?
Meeting new people and talking to new people and trying to communicate with the Portuguese language, which is not working out really well.
But you're trying, right?
But I am trying some, and you find every once in a while when you're trying that you find people that speak a little bit of English, and whenever they speak a little bit, I can say a whole lot more. And of course, I don't have any knowledge of the Portuguese language, and it seems so difficult to me. I don't have much incentive to learn it right now. I thought, what good's it going to do me? By the time I learn it, I'll be dead, you know. So anyway, it's been a nice experience finding out people are friendly, finding out there's several Americans and so forth over here. A few people that I've met have married Portuguese women, and a few the other way around, you know. So, and I don't have that many acquaintances yet, but I'm working on it, and that's part of the excitement of the whole thing.
Yeah. You said one of your plans for the future is to go travel, see a lot more of Europe. Are there any other things that you're looking for, or is traveling just the thing that you want to experience here?
Well, traveling is the main thing for sure. I don't know that I have any other outlying desires, you know, to try to meet while I'm here. So I'd say traveling is probably the primary thing that I've got on my mind, is seeing some of the rest of the world that I would have never had the opportunity to see had I stayed in the United States, because it was just too expensive to try to fly over here and then fly back in a week or two or three or four, whatever it was.
Sure.
And the whole thing would have been a lot more expensive than I think I could have dealt with.
Okay. So, I mean, you're 85 years old. I mean, it's obvious that the most years are behind you. And, I mean, nobody knows how many years we all have ahead of us.
Right.
So I want to talk to you a little bit more about your life, about the things that you've experienced, etc. So, if you look back on your life so far, for the past 85 years, which is amazing. I mean, most of us still have to try to live up to that age. Are there things that you would have done differently?
I would have been more focused on what the jobs and the tasks that I had in front of me as far as work life is concerned. I felt like I didn't slack any jobs, I don't think, at all. But I think that there was room to improve on every job that I ever had, and I wish I had done that. Okay. Not only for myself, but for my employer, because most of the time the employers paid me well and treated me well. And so I would refocus on that if I could.
Does that mean that you wish you were more ambitious? That you got different management positions or higher management positions? Or? I
did get those in terms of what I did and how I did it even. I think I could have done better had I refocused, had I been more focused on what I was doing. And I think that's an area where I could improve my life and help somebody else along the way too.
Okay, but were you focused on other things then?
Well, I still like to have the time around the house, and I fixed everything that needed fixing around the house, you know, and so I had time for all that. And I took good care of my house and my property and all that, and mowed the lawn and trimmed the trees and all those kinds of things. But I would. I kept busy, but I think that I could have focused a little bit differently on the job itself that I had that was paying all the bills. Basically. Yeah. And I think that was where I maybe would focus on doing a whole lot better there.
Okay. Would you say that you have any regrets looking back on your life besides that part of being more focused on your work?
I guess we all have regrets as far as that's concerned. There are some things that I probably would do a whole lot different if I had a second chance at them. By the time I realized that I should have done differently on something, it was too late to do anything about it in many instances. And I think that my efforts in that area would have been a lot better if I had at the time. But I don't know, I guess I was too young to realize what I needed to do. And I just wasn't work focused as I should have been, probably.
Okay, so it's more focused on career life, or
right?
Yeah. Okay, sure. Okay, so we all learn lessons in life. We have our obstacles, we have our challenges. What would you say are one of the few most important lessons you've learned in your life so far?
Keep your eye on the wheel, I guess, would be one of them.
Keep your eye on the wheel.
And I didn't have so much of a wandering eye as I did a wandering head. My head, I always wanted to do more and do different things than I was doing. And in the situations that I was in the manufacturing area, there wasn't a whole lot of room, really, to expand that as far as I knew. Mm-hmm. And an old farm boy just don't know all those things that some of these young kids that grew up in the city and learned, from business people, and their moms and dads were both maybe business people. Mine were farmers. And I'm not taking anything away from farmers, because I was one of them and I love them all. Mm-hmm. But I think they're the training and reality that you get out of farming is a lot different than a child would get out of business parents.
Sure.
And they're both doing the best they know how to do, and so you take what you're dealt. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Would you rather have had a career as a farmer instead of the automotive industry?
No, I don't think so. I love farming and all that, and I did an awful lot of it growing up, and even my dad was sick most of the time that I was in high school. So I run a 140 acre farm.
Cool.
In Missouri that he bought, and we moved to, and happily moved to, in Missouri. And then he got sick, and so I wanted to stay there and go to high school because I was ingrained in that already by then. And so I ran that farm for him for that period of time that I was in high school.
So you were in high school and you were running a farm?
Right. And so that was a learning experience. We had crops, and we had cattle, milking cattle. And there's land to be plowed and planted and harvested and all those kinds of things that farmers have to do. And then, of course, every morning and every night, those cows expected their attention too. And so it's a milk farm.
Okay, but how would you combine that with going to high school? I mean, I'm sure you had friends who didn't have to work on a farm, and they were, going out, going to bars, I don't know.
I don't know either, but I didn't have time to do all those things. So, I took care of what I needed to take care of to keep that farm up and running and doing well. As I knew how to do it. Of course, my dad was always around. I could talk to him about what I do about this or what I do about that. So it wasn't as if I was completely without guidance, mm-hmm. but still had to get done. And I was the guy that had to see that it got done, And so that would be the difference that I could see, because a person that grew up in the city would not, even if he got instructions, would know how to implement them in all probability. Yeah. So I had that advantage there that I could fall back on. Plus, I had a dad that was very helpful to me and very supportive of me. Yeah. So
there were long days, lots of work, always working. I mean, a farm is like 7 days a week.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. Those cows expect to be milked every morning and every night, and they expect to be fed at the same time. Yeah. And then there's hay to put up, so they got something to eat all winter. Mm-hmm. And there's grains to be harvested, so they have something to eat while we're milking them, and those kinds of things. that all had to be produced. It didn't just appear on a plant out there somewhere and you go out and cut it off and give it to them. Mm-hmm. If they got in the wrong pasture, they did take some of it themselves, but that's a whole different story.
Sure.
But that was my experience with it.
But how did that affect you later in life? I mean, that's a pretty high work ethic at a very young age.
I don't know how that affected me really, Marcel. I can say, well, that made me want to kind of slack off during my work years because I worked so hard, up till I was 17, 18 years old. On the other hand, it should have taught me the value of work and maybe force me, or at least encourage me, or maybe if I really faced it, admit that I should have applied myself harder after I got out of that situation and through college and all that, and I might have applied myself better to work had I followed what I already knew.
Yeah. Okay, that's interesting. If you could go back to any age of your life, what would it be and why?
Wow, that's a tough question. I enjoyed my high school years in spite of all the work. As far as why that I would like to go back to those years, is there's just some things I need to do differently, and that would be a good place to start.
Okay.
Yeah.
What kind of things would you have done differently?
Well, I probably would have applied myself different later on in my work life in the industry, that I worked in, the automotive industry and so forth. And had I done that, even as an old farm boy, I might have been able to become more than a general foreman, in the plant, or even higher. There was plant superintendents that come after general foreman. I might have been able to do that, maybe even another step. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I think I let that go.
Okay.
And I didn't mean to, but I think my own dereliction of duty, that happened.
Yeah.
That's what I'm afraid of.
Yeah, but that's interesting because the working culture in the United States compared to Europe, at least compared to Holland, where I'm from, is completely different. Mm-hmm. I have this image that, especially in the United States, even still to this day, everything is focused around your work. It's your job. You have you don't have many days off a year. So it's all focused on work. You hang around with the people that you work with, you spend your time with them. It's very work orientated. While over here, and especially in Portugal, and maybe you've noticed, it's very much oriented about enjoying life. Go to the beaches with your family. They take long lunches, right? They take the lunch very serious over here, and it's more about the quality of life.
Yeah.
So. If you knew that back then, would you have changed something about that, or was that just normal? That was
normal, but I think if I had realized that back then, I probably would have changed something. Not only in my life in the high school years and so forth, but particularly after that, I think I would have changed some things to make life after those years better, and focus more on life and enjoyment and on the Portugal life, I guess I'll say.
Yeah. Well, at least, you're 85 years old. You're never too old, right?
Right.
You made the choice to do that.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, that's pretty inspiring. Speaking about inspiration, who has influenced the most in your life, and why?
I'd say my dad. I admired my dad because he always seemed like he had more common sense than most hound dogs, and he knew what he was doing and why he was doing it, and he had definite ideas about things, and he put those into action. And whenever he had something like that he wanted to do, you better get out of the way because he was going to do it one way or another. And I should have been more like that. And I don't know why wasn't. But I just didn't learn my lesson well because he taught it well.
How was your relationship with your father during your life?
Oh, it was great. It was great, and I missed him so much whenever I was in high school and he was in Texas. That whole era there was just kind of a loss for both of us because I think he thought a lot of me too.
Oh, wow.
And
Did he ever thought that you would take over the farm?
I don't know that we ever discussed that, and it just somehow I knew that's what I was supposed to do. When he couldn't do it anymore, it just fell to me to do it. And I don't know what the land sale rates were at that time, the interest rates or any of those things. You know, when I would graduate from high school and go on to college, but he had to sell all those cattle, and he had to sell the farm, and he had to move back to Texas because that's the only place he seemed to be able to live. Otherwise, he'd just break out and rush hives and stuff, you know, that he just couldn't stand it. And so it was just my thing to do at that time. Seemed to be, to me, it seemed like that was the only choice we had.
The natural course, so to speak.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yep.
But during your entire life and while your father was around, you still remain in good contact? You could talk to him about, I don't know, stuff, about life?
Anything.
Yeah?
Yeah, anything, and particularly anything having to do with running the farm or anything like that. He would talk to me about life if I asked him, but he was not forthcoming about it most of the time.
Yeah.
And I wish I'd asked more questions, but I didn't.
Yeah, that's interesting. And your dad became, how old he was?
He was 88 when he passed,
88.
Just over 88.
Oh, wow. That's a long life.
That's a lot of life.
Yeah. So I'm curious, I mean, 85 years, that's a long time. What was the best day of your life and the worst day of your life?
Right off the top of my head, I'd have to say one of the worst days of my life was when I lost my dad. And what was the best day of my life? I had a lot of good life. And so it's kind of hard to pick a day that was best. I suppose when my oldest son was born, probably, and he was born a twin, but we lost his brother. And we didn't even know there was a brother. It was that early in the game, you know, doctors didn't know. And so he was born like a few minutes after my oldest son, Stuart, was born. And he just couldn't survive. He just couldn't get enough air to get going, you know. And so that's probably one of my worst times. And he suffocated basically because we just didn't know he was even coming, you know. And I don't know how long he was in the womb, longer than he should have been, but if he'd been out maybe 10 minutes earlier, he might have survived.
Wow.
And so anyway, I'd say that probably has to rank up there as one of my worst times in my life.
And your best days was the birth of your oldest son. Okay.
Well, yeah, that and being with my dad was a special treat too. Because a long time there, I was with him every day.
Wow.
And he turned a lot of things over to me to do and just said, do them. He did not tell me how to do them. He didn't stand over me and watch over me. He'd already done that. And he'd been there to tell me how to do them. He showed me how to do things. He said, okay, do this. Repair the combine for the summer harvest. I did it. It didn't break down a single time. So he bragged on that a few times, and that lifted my spirits, you know, that he approved of my work. And so anyway, that was a good day too. Whenever that happened, he bragged to my neighbor that made fun of me fixing that combine. He said, yeah, right, you'll be down all summer. He was down all summer. We ran all summer. So that was nice to hear Dad say that, you
Definitely, yeah. But that sounds like you had a really good relationship with your father.
I did.
Yeah.
Very much so.
Yeah, and even the fact that he, you know, said that he was very proud of you. I mean, I think, you know, I mean, my father is still around. It would be amazing to know that, you know, fathers are proud of you, right?
Exactly.
That's a beautiful thing, yeah. So what are you most proud of that you achieved in life?
Oh boy, that's a hard question. I guess it would have to go back to whenever I was trying to raise my boys the right way. Obviously, I think I pretty much succeeded with the oldest one and failed with the youngest one. And I don't know exactly what that means, so I can't really expand on that very much. my oldest boy supports me, and he calls me about every week to talk to me and wish me well and tells me he loves me and that kind of thing. I haven't heard from my youngest boy, and I've been here 5 months now, probably 2-3 more months before that, awful close to first of the year since I last heard from him. So that's kind of a heartbreaker. And that's a long story, and I don't even know where to start. I don't want to start.
No, I understand. How old is your youngest son?
66.
Unbelievable, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that's interesting because, you know, you had this beautiful relationship with your father. I'm sure you wish you could have it with your son as well.
Oh, I sure do. And I'm so thankful for the one that I have with my oldest son. And I wish I understood more about what I did wrong with my youngest son. We talked about it one time, but I didn't get any answers out of our conversation. We did talk for 3 or 4 hours one night into the wee hours of the morning. But as far as me learning anything about what I'd done wrong, I didn't. And I don't know if he thought I should have or not. That was never discussed. Fact is, I didn't.
Yeah. Are the two brothers in contact with each other?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they're best friends, I guess you would say.
Oh, well, that's good. They live in the same town or not far from each other?
No, my youngest son is actually retired, but he's still working, and he does engineering work for the company that he retired from. So he's been busy with them ever since he retired. So he gets a retirement check and whatever they pay him to do the engineering jobs that they have problems with and want his help on. And the other boy lives in California, and he has a doctor's degree, and he's in teaching management. He counsels kids and works with kids that have problems and those kinds of things. Okay. So he's a psychologist, I guess.
Okay. Okay. So I want to talk to you a little bit about your dreams and goals that you had in your life when you were younger. Like, you know, I have a lot of dreams that I would like to achieve in my life. Did you have any dreams outside your work when you were younger?
I did. One of the dreams I remember having was learning to fly an airplane. And I did that while I was in college.
Wow.
And it was a single engine plane, and it was a big deal to me, you know, to be able to fly a single engine plane, get my license and all that, and fly all over the country.
Oh, you did that, yeah?
I did some of those things, and the problem was with it is that I ended up doing most of that by myself. Once in a while, my kids would go with me, and even my wife at the time would fly to Missouri or something where her folks lived at the time. But it kind of wore down after that. They lost interest in it, and so I ended up flying by myself most of the time, and that got pretty disinteresting and kind of expensive. Me just flying around in the wild blue yonder, you know. So I didn't fly much after that.
Okay.
But it was a goal at one time, and I accomplished it in a way. And it was there for me to use if I could have and hadn't lost interest in it because everybody else did, you know. So.
Did you find any other goals or dreams after the flying?
Well, I thought I had a dream of playing golf, but the sticks didn't understand that, so so I never was very good at it. Again, it was one of those things I didn't really concentrate on like I should have because it takes a lot of practice and a lot of concentration. And I don't know if I can say I didn't have time or not. I can say that, but I'm not sure it's true. If I had really been dedicated to that dream, I probably would have found time.
Sure. Yeah.
And so that's probably where I better leave that one. Because,
yeah. Sure. How would you like to be remembered?
I'd like to be remembered as somebody that always tried to be good to people and help people. And that does not exclude my sons. It doesn't exclude anybody, really, that's trying to help themselves. I admire that when people pick up the shovel and start digging. In case they don't know where to dig, they start digging somewhere. And so I'd like to be remembered as somebody that helped them with the digging and helped them get where they wanted to go and figure out why they were digging and what they were looking for.
Wow. So on your tombstone is going to be a big shovel on it.
Probably.
What things have you discovered are the most important in life?
Honesty is obviously way up there at the top, and dependability, and belief in yourself, and being willing to help other people when they need help, and being able to recognize when they need help and do something about it at the time they need it.
Do you have any advice about believing in yourself? Because that's, I think that's something that's spreading more and more around, believing in yourself, because we live in a different world than where you grew up in. We have the social media, so we have the outside world telling you how to be, how to act, how to behave, how to dress, where to eat, etc. And that kind of has, at least to me, a negative impact on believing in yourself. So do you have any advice on what would help in believing in yourself?
Well, the main thing is I think you've got to know what you want to do yourself as a starting place. And you've got to know when to hold your hands up and go time out. I'm not going there. Don't waste my time with that kind of thoughts and garbage, because that's not interesting to me. And we're not going to play that game. And if I believe in myself, you can't do that. If I don't believe in myself, I can be led around basically anywhere by somebody that's got some influence or got some smooth words to use and those kinds of things. So believing in yourself is a big help. And following through on is probably a bigger help.
Following through on things, yeah. And have the courage to say no.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That may be the most important one, really.
Yeah, because
people they're trying to mislead you everywhere today. They want you to be a girl, and something else that you're not, and you don't want to be. And I don't want to wear skirts, and I don't want to do all that stuff. So you got to know what you want and just stick to your guns and go after that. You can't follow everybody else's dream. You got to follow your own.
Discover your own. Stick to your guns. Stick to your dream.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's on this journey, and you're going to meet people, and you have to say no to them, because not everybody has the best intentions for you.
Well, that's exactly right. You don't. That doesn't get different in Portugal. It's still there.
I think it's always going to be around.
I think it will too.
Yeah. So I'm curious, what was the most crazy thing you ever did in your life?
Crazy thing?
Yeah.
Oh Lord, can I go there?
Yes, please.
I don't know if this even qualifies or not. There was a time when I was a young kid, I drove my uncle's little Ford tractor, and he had a draw that ran through his property. And I'd love to drive that little Ford tractor down into that draw and go around in there like a little mole or something. And some of the places I went with that little tractor, he would have broke my neck if he'd have known about it, because one place I got into almost turned it over. And it could have hurt me, and it could have wrecked his little tractor, and that'd have been the end of my Ford tractor driving. So that was pretty stupid on my part. I was maybe too young to be driving it, and certainly too young to be driving it like I was. And I wasn't trying to be reckless or careless or hurt myself or anything like that. It was just exciting to me to be able to drive that little tractor and put it where I wanted it. And then I got grounded after he found out where where I was taking it. I don't know if he went down and looked in the drawer and saw all the tracks down in there or not, but anyway, that was actually Victor's father.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he let me drive that little tractor when I go visit their place, maybe once per week or something like that in the summertime. So that was pretty careless, really. I remember a race one time with a fellow and his friend that were on a motorcycle. We were schoolmates. And so we decided we'd race into town that evening. We were out sort of on the edge of town. I had a little 50 Chevrolet pickup that was my dad's, and he had a motorcycle. It was pretty good one. But we raced, and luckily we didn't hit any traffic because I passed him on a curve and all that kind of stuff to win the race, you know. But he probably was smarter than I was, and he kind of, I think, held back at that point when we started around that curve because he didn't want either one of us getting any trouble. So that was kind of careless on my part.
How about now? You're still looking for exciting things to do?
Nope.
No?
Not that exciting.
No.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
No, not really.
No.
I guess I'm kind of past those things.
Sure.
I'm ready to relax and enjoy life, and I probably walk 50% slower than I used to walk, and
But you're still walking.
I'm still walking,
Yeah.
and I'm enjoying it, and I'm getting along well with it, and it seems to be serving me well health-wise. So, as you say, I'm still walking.
Yeah, exactly,
And I don't
yeah.
intend to quit.
What did you learn from life?
Oh, I learned to keep my head down and my hands to the wheel and to do what I needed to do at the time I needed to do it. I suppose would be my answer to that. I don't know if that's a very good answer or not, but I think that's one thing I learned, that I needed to do those things, and I needed to do them every day. Every other day or once every Tuesday or something like that was not enough. You had to live your life every day. And I think that I learned that was how the game was played, and I might have learned that a little bit late in life, but it's soon enough that I was able to take advantage of it in my older years.
Yeah, live your life to the fullest. That's exactly what you're doing now.
Right.
Yeah. Did you find the happiness you were looking for in life?
Not really. I found a lot of happiness in life, and I guess one of my big regrets was divorcing my first wife, and that may be where my son and I went wrong whenever I divorced his mom. I don't know if that's the case or not. I had a dear friend in North Carolina tell me that you don't mess with a boy's mom. And I don't know if that's where the problem started, but it started lots of years ago, and it seems like it's just festered ever since. Thing of it was, I never knew about it, and wasn't anything I could do about it because I didn't even know there was a problem until just the last year and a half, something like that. And by that time, it seemed to be so festered in his mind that there still wasn't anything I could do about it. And so pretty much I just, I don't want to say I gave up. I did try my best to write a letter to explain that I didn't know there was a problem and that I still loved him, and that I was willing to talk about it in a different light than maybe I was ever before. But we never really talked about it, so I guess that would be my answer.
Yeah. Is your ex-wife still around?
She lives in Missouri.
Okay. Are you still in contact with each other? Or?
No.
No? And
No.
that's fine for you? You want to leave it like that? And
Yes, I would say that's good for both of us.
Okay, great.
And it wasn't that bad a marriage. It was just that I guess we both got done with it. You know, something, I don't know if that's a fair statement.
How long have you been married?
Had I been married?
No, how long have you been married with her?
25.
Okay. That's quite a while, yes.
And so anyway, that's an area that I regret. I don't know what would have been different or better had I stayed married. I don't have any clue about that. I'm not sure she or I, either one, would have ever been happy after that. Okay. But I was not very happy after that in terms of any other relationships I tried to formulate, you know. She did get married again, and she had a life with another man, and he come down with a very, very serious disease, and he eventually died on her because of the disease he had. There just wasn't anything could be done about it, and he finally just, I'm going to say, he withered away, you know.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that was hard on her, and I feel bad about that. And I still do feel bad about it, but it was water way over the dam by that time.
Did you wish that you, I don't know even if it's possible, that you put some more effort in the relationship with your ex-wife and make it work? Or do you believe it was a good choice that you both got separated?
I think I should have put more effort into it. I think I should have. And I don't know if it would have worked then or not, but some more effort would have given it a better chance. Yeah. And so I regret that. And yeah.
Okay. What in your experience does it take to be happy?
Pretty much doing what you want to do and planning it out well ahead of time, and then just making it happen. And that doesn't mean running over anybody else to make it happen. It just means make it happen in your own life, and so that you're happy, your family's happy, and everybody is a cohesive group, you know, and they get along. Family gets along well. And sure, there's going to be problems. There always is. Yeah. But they don't have to be serious problems, I don't believe. And that's where I blew it, I think.
So you're making the problem bigger than it actually was.
Probably.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, making things worse than they really are. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good one, yeah. So it's also about focus, right? Finding out what it is that you want, going after that. So that means a lot of focus.
Right.
Yeah. Don't let other people tell you it's not possible.
Well, people will always tell you whatever you want to do is not possible. They just don't think you can do the things you want to do. They think they can do the things that they want to do, but not, you know, you're not qualified, perhaps.
Yeah.
And so I think that most people, they want somebody to be less than they are so they can feel better about themselves a lot of times. And it was not ever in my bailiwick to try to make everybody feel good so they could feel better than me. I didn't have any problem with them feeling good. I just didn't feed that ego type thing, you know. And so maybe I could have made more effort at that and petted them just a little bit or something. I'm not sure. But yeah, that's probably the way I would approach that this time around.
Yeah, sure. I mean, we all make choices in our lives, you know, based on the conditions and situation at that moment. And, you know, some play out well and others, they don't play out so well.
Believe me.
Yeah, I do believe you. So that's my next question is, are you content with the choices you made in life?
Yeah, other than the ones I've already mentioned. I'm happy with my decision to move to Portugal. I don't know what life holds for me here. I'm not looking for a relationship, but I'm open to one. And I'm not going to pursue that. I'm not out every night looking, and I'm just not built that way.
Sure.
And I don't know where that comes from, but I never have been that way. So anyway, I still think that there's a lot of happiness out there, and you still have to go get it yourself in a way.
Sure, yeah, absolutely. You have to get it yourself. Yes. So I have another question for you, because eventually, you know, our lives are going to end. Your life is going to end. And, you know, let's say there is a place called heaven. Now we go there, right? And just before we go to heaven, there's this waiting room. You know, perhaps it's the door between earth and heaven. Who knows how this game works, right? And whenever you go to heaven, all your memories will be erased. So everything you experience in your entire life is going to be erased. But there's one memory you can take with you for eternity. What would that memory be?
That I can take with me.
One memory.
I guess that I would like to have the love of my family as a good memory. And that's probably where I've failed the worst. And so there's not much I can do to correct that at this point. Maybe I can still save my relationship with my youngest son. I'd sure like to, and I'd sure like to do that and to have the freedom, or whatever you want to call it, to speak to him openly about it, and him to have the confidence to speak openly to me about it, because it's going to take a lot of talk, I believe, to get back to point one or starting point or whatever you want to say, to fix the things that he's experienced that have caused him to be so bitter. And I say bitter, I don't know if that's the case or not, because he's gotten over this thing 2 or 3, 4, 5, 6 times. I don't know how many times, but he never told me about it. He never even told me there was a problem. So I couldn't fix anything because I didn't know there was a problem.
Sure.
And I regret that but I don't know. Of course, I don't know what the problem was, so I don't know how I'd handle it different at this point. You know. So it's just a tragedy, is what it is. You know.
Sure. Yeah. We all have our crosses to bear in life, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Do you think about death?
Some.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do. It bothers me a lot that I don't have the same relationship with him that I used to have, or even the same relationship that I have with my oldest son. Now, the oldest boy is 4 years older than he is, and I don't know what that's got to do with it. There's just an awful lot of things I still don't know about that situation, you know, that bother me. I don't know if they bother him or not. Sometimes I get the feeling they don't. And maybe he's just lived with them so long that they're his now, and that's the way it's gonna be. I don't know what that means, but it's like he's lived with them so long that they belong to him, and he doesn't feel comfortable changing them. I don't know, and it's worrisome not to know things, you know,
I can
especially
imagine.
important things like that.
Yeah. Would that be like the one thing you would like to resolve in your life?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep. Sure would.
Yeah.
It would be great if I could resolve that one thing. And then I'd be ready to say, "Take me home, Lord."
Really? Yeah.
Not really, but I'd like to resolve that one so I could go home comfortably, you know, and full of thanks and praise, you know, for what God did to help me get through that, and Jason too, as well as his whatever his issues are, we get those resolved before we go our separate ways to heaven and to living here on earth.
Yeah. Do you ever think about that? About, you know, the end?
Oh yeah, I do. I don't worry about it because I expect to live quite a few more years.
Well, that's good.
But that's not guaranteed. And next year is not guaranteed. Tomorrow is not guaranteed, for that matter. But yes, I do think about that sometimes. And I think, you know, there's things I can do, like eating better, eating the right things, maybe a little bit more. I try to do that now, believe it or not. But I do think about that quite a bit, yeah. Mm-hmm.
What kind of thoughts do you have about it? I mean, are you scared of it or not maybe, or...
I'm not a bit worried about it. I've lived my life in such a way that I believe I'm going to heaven, and I'm not concerned about that. I just believe there are things I could have done better, so I could be even more sure of it, you know, had our relationship, mine and my son's, worked out better. I think that my likelihood of going to heaven would be enhanced, whether it would change things very much, but if I didn't get this pedal, I might have got that pedal if I'd done things right.
Yeah.
The way it is, I'm not likely to move off this pedal unless I can get something fixed, you know, before I expire.
Yeah.
So.
But are you like taking steps to, you know, to enhance the chance that can be resolved?
I did write him a letter. And I didn't want to be the one that never said anything about it in the future.
Sure.
And so I did take that step. I wrote a pretty serious letter, I thought, and I had my pastor to check it over and help me with anything that he thought might be a problem from both sides, you know, from my son's side, and how something might come back to bite me that I wasn't expecting. I sent that letter probably 3 months ago, and I haven't heard a word. And so I'm not happy about that at all. I guess I'm more convinced now that nothing is going to happen because of that reaction, and no reaction at all, you know, that he's sent to me since then. He never even acknowledged the letter. And I remember, no, I'm not even going to go there. I remember that worrying about that situation in terms of my relationship with the Lord, you know, in terms of that. So that's the thing I worry about at this stage of the game.
Yeah. And it's also that you have done everything within your power
There's not anything else I know of I could do.
Yeah, yeah.
I did write another letter the other day, but I never did mail it. And it was a letter along the lines that I can't fix your relationship with me, Jason. I can only try to do the best I can. And I'm writing this letter to you again. I don't know if it's more for you or if it's more for me, because we both need some healing. And so the story that I relate this to was when I read about the man that you have to operate from where you're standing and from your own shoes. You can't operate somewhere else in somebody else's shoes. Somebody else can't fix your problems. You have to fix them yourself. And I tried to relate that as kindly as I could in that letter. But as I said, I never did mail it because I wasn't sure it was appropriate. And I did have an appointment to talk to my pastor about it again. But that hadn't happened yet because he's a busy man and he can't be spending time on my problems all the time, you know.
Sure.
And so that's all that's happened since I wrote the first letter, which I did mail. But it didn't get a response, and I don't know that this one would get much of a response either. And maybe it shouldn't get a response because maybe it's too harsh. I don't know. I didn't try to be harsh. I just tried to point out that I can't fix the problem if I don't know what it is. Basically, is what I said.
Maybe the two brothers will talk to each other about it.
The what?
The two brothers.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I don't know. Stuart's really good at that because he's a psychologist and he knows about those kinds of things and issues and people's problems and stuff. So I was hoping that something might come out of that, but where Jason ever shared that letter with him or not, I have no idea.
Yeah, that's interesting, yeah. So we've almost come to the end of our interview, but I'm very curious, is there any life advice you would like to pass along?
Be who you are, say what you mean, and mean what you say. And I think those things will take you a long way in life and protect you from a lot of things you want to be protected from. And in my viewpoint, they will play well with the Lord when it comes time to talk to Him about them. I hope.
Yeah, sure. Bill, I want to thank you very much. I mean, you've been very open. You've been answering all my questions. You speak from the heart. So I really want to thank you for not only taking the time to speak with me, but also being so open and vulnerable about it. So it's been a privilege for having this conversation, and I'm very happy that we met. Thank you for that.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your comment.
Thank you, Bill.
All right.
Well, listener, I hope you enjoyed it as well. There's so much wisdom in the stories that people like Bill have to share with us, and I hope you discovered a few for yourself as well. Anyways, thanks for listening, and see you again on the next episode. Much love. Bye-bye. Okay, that's it.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. So, how was that for you?
I was all right. Few things are hard for me to get started